On a warm night in Ouagadougou, an alarm went off at the security center of the presidential palace. Next to the digital display showing 11:45 p.m., red warning lights flashed on the security monitors. Colonel Diallo, the head of security, leaned toward the computer screen. The new, highly sensitive AI-based security system had detected suspicious activity. The system had flagged a vehicle that had been spotted around the palace 5 times in the past 2 weeks. A black SUV approaching from different angles at different times each day. "This isn't normal," Diallo said to his assistant. "The same vehicle, different days, always following the same route. They could be conducting reconnaissance." His assistant was checking the system protocols. "The license plate recognition system is coming up clean, sir. The vehicle is registered to a French businessman. He's in the country legally." Diallo narrowed his eyes. He may be here legally, but why does he keep following the same route? This is the road President Traoré's convoy takes every day. Colonel Diallo entered a few commands into the computer and examined the information on the vehicle owner. Jean-Pierre Renault, owner of Golden Lotus Mining Company. He had been in Burkina Faso for the past 2 months conducting business meetings. "Interesting," said Diallo. "This man is one of the most vocal opponents of President Traoré's new mining policy." There are reports of a heated argument at last week's meeting. His assistant looked at Diallo with concern. "What should we do now, sir? Should we alert the president?" Diallo thought for a moment. Ibrahim Traoré was always remarkably calm about such security concerns. "No, not yet. We don't have anything concrete, just a suspicious situation. Let's gather more information. Request access to the security cameras at Renault's hotel. I want to monitor all his movements." Meanwhile, across town at the luxurious Assassinate Hotel, Jean-Pierre Renault was taking a sip of his expensive whiskey in his 12th-floor suite. Maps, notes, and photographs were spread across the table. 3 men dressed in dark clothes were gathered around him, speaking in hushed tones. "The route is the same every day," said one of the men, pointing to a road marked with a red line on the map. "He leaves the palace at 8:30 a.m., goes to the ministry. At 4 p.m., he leaves the ministry, sometimes stops by the development center, then returns to the palace. His most vulnerable point is here." He pressed his finger on an intersection on the map. Renault smiled, a cold gleam in his eyes. "Perfect. We'll do it in 2 days." "Are all the preparations complete?" The leader of the men nodded. "Yes, boss. Weapons, escape route, and fake IDs. All ready." "And what about afterward?" Renault asked. "How do we leave the country after this mess?" The man pulled an envelope from his bag. "A private plane will be waiting for us. Local contacts have been arranged. We'll leave no trace." "Good," said Renault, raising his glass. "Let's drink to the beginning of the end for Ibrahim Traoré. This man is the biggest obstacle to our interests in West Africa. When we eliminate him, the gold of Burkina Faso will be back under our control." The 3 men clinked their glasses with Renault's. None of them were aware that one of their own was secretly recording this conversation. The next morning, President Ibrahim Traoré woke up early as usual. He would wake at 5:30 and spend half an hour meditating before breakfast at 6 o'clock. This morning routine helped him stay calm and focused while governing the country. His wife approached him. "You have an early ministry meeting today, don't you?" Traoré nodded. "Yes, about mining regulations. The discussions will be difficult. Traoré's new mining policy was designed to ensure that Burkina Faso received a greater share of its natural resources. A larger percentage of the profits earned by foreign companies would have to remain in the country, better wages would be paid to local workers, and environmental standards would be tightened. Naturally, this policy didn't sit well with mining giants like Renault, who had been operating in the region for many years with minimal regulations. At 8 o'clock, Traoré boarded his official convoy. It was a modest convoy consisting of 2 black SUVs, 1 main vehicle, and 1 backup. Unlike most West African leaders, Traoré didn't like flashy convoys. "Should we change the route from the palace to the ministry today, sir?" asked his driver. "No, let's take the usual route," said Traoré. "I want to see the flood situation in the village after the heavy rain." The driver nodded and began to proceed along the usual route. At the security center in Ouagadougou, Colonel Diallo hadn't slept all night. The camera footage, obtained from Renault's hotel, confirmed his concerns. The secret meetings in the suite suggested something was being planned for the next day. But the real bombshell came at 7 a.m. when a message arrived on his phone. An anonymous number had sent him a message that read, "Urgent, President in danger, assassination today." Along with the message was an audio file. Diallo immediately opened the file. The audio quality wasn't perfect, but he could clearly hear Jean-Pierre Renault's voice detailing an assassination plan against Ibrahim Traoré. The location, time, escape plan, it was all there. "My God," said Diallo. "We need to alert the president immediately." He grabbed his phone and called the president's driver, but the convoy had already departed. The signal was weak. He tried the president's direct number. No answer. Diallo quickly sprang into action. He alerted all security teams, sending special forces to the potential location of the planned assassination. But would they get there in time? The convoy was proceeding down a narrow road outside the city. Traoré was examining the puddles and muddy streets around him. The rainy season always made infrastructure problems more visible. "We need to prepare an urgent improvement plan for this area," he said to his advisor sitting next to him. A black car approaching from ahead interrupted Traoré's thoughts. The car had stopped in the middle of the road as if it had broken down. The convoy slowed. The driver looked anxiously ahead. "Sir, this could be a setup. We need to take a different route." Traoré looked around. On the right there were 2 motorcyclists, and on the left was a wooded area. "Let's turn back," he said calmly. But at that moment, another vehicle appeared behind them. The convoy was trapped between the 2 cars. The driver braked. "Keep your weapons ready," Traoré told his guards. There was no fear on his face, only a determined expression. Armed men began to exit the vehicles in front and behind. Traoré's guards drew their weapons, but they could see they were outnumbered. Just then, something happened that distracted everyone. One of the armed men suddenly turned to his leader, Renault, and pointed his gun at him. "Don't move, Jean-Pierre. Hands up." Renault was shocked. "What are you doing, Maurice? Have you lost your mind?" "I'm not Maurice," said the man. "I am Lieutenant Oumar Zongo, Burkina Faso Intelligence Service. You're all under arrest." From the surrounding woods, Burkina Faso special forces began to emerge. The attackers were surrounded. Renault looked at Zongo with a sense of betrayal. You were a spy? But I've known you for months." "Apparently not well enough," said Lieutenant Zongo, taking out the handcuffs. Ibrahim Traoré calmly stepped out of his car. The security forces had already taken control of the situation. The attackers had been disarmed and were lying face down on the ground. "Good work, Lieutenant," said Traoré, approaching Zongo. Zongo gave a formal salute. "Thank you, Mr. President. It was my duty." Traoré looked at Renault, who was sitting on the ground in handcuffs. "Jean-Pierre Renault, last week you refused to negotiate at the table. Now you try to stop me on the road. It's sad that you chose violence over diplomacy." Renault looked at Traoré with a mixture of anger and humiliation. "Your new policy ruined our gold business. You made it impossible for us to continue our operations in Burkina Faso. No, Mr. Renault. I'm simply fulfilling my responsibility to my people, said Traoré. The resources of our country should be used not only to enrich foreign companies, but also for the welfare of our people. I was always ready to negotiate with you at the table, but you chose to eliminate me instead of finding a solution. Renault didn't respond, just looked at the ground in anger. Traoré turned to Colonel Diallo. How did you find out? Diallo pointed to Lieutenant Zongo. Actually, the lieutenant handled everything, sir. 6 months ago, while investigating suspicious foreign mining activities, he managed to infiltrate Renault's team. This morning, he sent us the audio recording, but it seems he had already taken action to control the situation himself. Lieutenant Zongo bowed his head modestly. I did what I could to complete the mission, sir. And you did it perfectly, said Traoré. Burkina Faso is grateful to you, Lieutenant. As the security teams loaded Renault and his men into police vehicles, Traoré took Zongo aside to speak with him more. You lived with these men for 6 months. Yes, sir, said Zongo. First, I joined the security team, then gradually gained their trust. That was very dangerous, said Traoré. If your identity had been discovered, the risk was necessary, sir, said Zongo, to protect our country. Traoré looked at the young lieutenant's face. There was pride and determination in his eyes. You're like your father, Lieutenant. He too was ready to sacrifice everything for his country. Zongo's eyes lit up. You knew my father, sir? Yes, I did, said Traoré. Colonel Zongo was my instructor at the military academy. I learned a lot from him. He would have been very proud to see how much you resemble him. Zongo was touched, but maintained his professional composure. Thank you, sir. Traoré returned to his convoy. Let's continue to the ministry meeting. We have a lot to discuss about our mining policy. At the ministry, Traoré was greeted by worried faces. News of the assassination attempt had already spread. Mr. President, are you all right? Asked the Minister of Mining. I'm fine, said Traoré. And today, I once again understood why our mining policy is so important. Some see it as a threat when we prioritize the welfare of our people over their own interests. In the meeting room, a brief briefing was given about the assassination attempt. Then, Traoré changed the subject. Now, let's get back to our real business. The new mining regulations are vital for the future of Burkina Faso. Fair distribution of resources, environmental protection, and benefits for local communities. These are our non-negotiable principles. The meeting continued throughout the day. Traoré worked calmly and focused, as if his life hadn't been in danger just a few hours ago. This resilience both surprised and inspired those around him. In the evening hours, Traoré retired to his office and called Lieutenant Zongo for a private meeting. Lieutenant, today you saved not only my life, but also the stability of our country, said Traoré. I don't know how to thank you. I was doing my duty, sir, said Zongo humbly. I have an offer for you, said Traoré. I'm thinking of establishing a special unit within the presidential security team, a unit that combines intelligence and protection duties. I would like to see you at the head of this unit. Zongo's eyes widened. That's a great honor, sir. Do you need time to think about it? No, sir. My answer is yes. It is a privilege to serve my country and you. Traoré smiled. Excellent. We'll discuss the details tomorrow. Meanwhile, across town, Jean-Pierre Renault, who had been detained, was being interrogated at the Burkina Faso National Security Center. Sitting across from him was Colonel Diallo. If you think we're going to make a deal, you're mistaken, said Renault. There are powerful people behind me, I won't spend even a day in prison. Diallo smiled calmly. Mr. Renault, you still think you're in the old Burkina Faso. In the Traoré era, money and foreign connections are no longer above justice. The President of France will personally call for me, Renault said threateningly. Perhaps he will, said Diallo, pulling out a file. But first, he might want to see this file. It contains documents of all the illegal transactions your company has made in Mali and Burkina Faso. Tax evasion, bribery, environmental violations. My list is long. Lieutenant Zongo worked very productively for 6 months. Renault's face paled. This is a bluff. The documents must be fake. Not at all, said Diallo. The truth will come out in court. The days of exploiting Africa's resources are over, Mr. Renault. It's time to be held accountable. The next morning, Burkina Faso media carried the assassination attempt as their headline story. The story quickly spread to the international press as well. AFP, Reuters, Al Jazeera, and many media organizations worldwide reported the incident. Burkina Faso, President Ibrahim Traoré, survived an assassination attempt orchestrated by French mining boss Jean-Pierre Renault. The heroic efforts of an agent from the Burkina Faso Intelligence Service exposed the plot. At the palace, Traoré continued with his daily duties. The assassination attempt had only strengthened his resolve. In the afternoon, he went to a television studio for a planned address to the nation. Dear people of Burkina Faso, he began, you have probably heard about the events that occurred yesterday. Some forces want to stop our country's efforts to take ownership of its resources. But they should know that the determination of the people of Burkina Faso is stronger than any individual. I am transient, but this land and these people are permanent. Everyone in the studio was amazed at Traoré's calmness and composure. Just one day after an attack on his life, he was able to speak without showing any signs of fear or anxiety. Thanks to the brave and selfless service of Lieutenant Oumar Zongo, this conspiracy was prevented, Traoré continued. Zongo's story shows the potential within every Burkinabe. He was a young lieutenant, but he showed the courage to make the highest sacrifice for his country. Today, all of Burkina Faso sees its own strength and determination in his character. Traoré brought his speech to the mining policy. This incident shows that our mining reforms are on the right track. If these reforms are disturbing some people so much, it means they are truly beneficial for our people. The resources of Burkina Faso belong to the people of Burkina Faso. We will never compromise on this principle. After the live broadcast, Traoré went to the National Security Center. He wanted to see Jean-Pierre Renault. When he entered the interrogation room, Renault was sitting at the table. The proud demeanor of the former mining boss was now broken, replaced by an exhausted expression. Mr. Renault, said Traoré, sitting across from him, I want to ask you something. Why? What difference does it make now? Said Renault with a tired voice. It matters to me, said Traoré. I want to understand. Why did you choose violence instead of talking at the table? Renault raised his head. Because you're different. We could make deals with previous governments. Money was enough. But you operate with different values. We couldn't buy you. Traoré smiled briefly. I'll take that as a compliment. Under your new rules, our profit margins will drop, Renault continued. Our shareholders won't accept that. You'll still make reasonable profits, said Traoré. Just not excessive ones anymore. While using Burkina Faso's resources, my people should also benefit from it. Instead, you chose to kill me. This shows the bankruptcy not only of you, but also of the system you represent. Renault didn't answer. You'll be formally charged tomorrow, said Traoré, standing up. It will be a fair trial. The whole world will be watching. As Traoré was leaving, Renault asked one last question. And Lieutenant Zongo? What will happen to him? Traoré stopped. Him. He'll become a hero, as he deserves. The next day, a special ceremony was held at the presidential palace. All ministers, high-ranking officers, and diplomatic mission representatives were present. When Lieutenant Oumar Zongo arrived at the ceremony in his military uniform, applause broke out in the hall. Ibrahim Traoré called Zongo to the center of the platform. "Lieutenant Oumar Zongo," said Traoré in a formal voice, "the extraordinary courage and sacrifice you showed in performing your duty has made all of Burkina Faso proud of you. For 6 months, concealing your identity, putting your life at risk, you ensured the security of our country." Traoré opened a box brought by an assistant. Inside was the Golden Lion Medal, Burkina Faso's highest civilian merit award. "We give this medal only to those who have shown extraordinary service and sacrifice," said Traoré. "To date, only 10 people have been deemed worthy of this honor. You are the 11th. Zongo accepted the medal with an emotional but professional expression. "I'm grateful for this honor, Mr. President, but I was just doing my duty." "It is this humility and loyalty that makes you worthy of the medal," said Traoré. "If your father, Colonel Zongo, could see this ceremony, he would feel indescribable pride." After the ceremony, there was a big celebration in the modest town where the Zongo family lived. Lieutenant Zongo's mother embraced her son in tears. "If your father could see," she said, "how happy he would be." "The president talked about him," said Zongo. "President Traoré knew my father." "Of course he did," said his mother, smiling. "Your father was his instructor at military school. He always said Ibrahim Traoré was the brightest among all his students. And now my son saved his life. Life draws such interesting circles." A week later, a large public meeting was held in Ouagadougou. Thousands of people gathered to listen to Traoré's speech. The details of the new mining policy were being presented on large screens. "The resources of Burkina Faso will now benefit its people more directly," Traoré explained. "Foreign companies can still operate here and make profits, but not at the expense of our citizens or our environment." The crowd cheered. Many held banners that read, "Thank you, Lieutenant Zongo," and "Our resources, our future." In the European press, the story was covered from a different angle. Some newspapers suggested that the assassination plot was a staged event to justify stricter controls on foreign companies. But African media rallied behind Traoré, praising his courage and vision. 2 months later, the trial of Jean-Pierre Renault ended with a conviction. He was sentenced to 25 years in prison for attempted assassination and conspiracy against the state. The evidence presented by Lieutenant Zongo was irrefutable. On the anniversary of the foiled assassination, a national holiday was declared in Burkina Faso, Sovereignty Day, a day to celebrate the nation's right to control its own resources and destiny. Lieutenant Zongo, now head of the new Presidential Security and Intelligence Unit, stood beside Traoré at the celebration. The young officer had become a national symbol of loyalty and courage. "You know," said Traoré to Zongo during a quiet moment, "your father once told me that true leadership is not about power, but about service. He would be proud to see that you learned that lesson even better than I did." Zongo smiled. "I had good examples to follow, Mr. President." Indeed, the story of Traoré and Zongo would be told for generations in Burkina Faso. A story about loyalty, courage, and the fight for a nation's resources. A story that began with an assassination plot, but ended with a stronger, more unified country. Dear viewers, The story of Ibrahim Traoré and Lieutenant Zongo that we've shared with you today highlights several important issues that continue to affect many African nations. The struggle for control over natural resources has been a recurring theme throughout Africa's recent history. Many countries rich in gold, diamonds, oil, and other valuable commodities have seen their wealth extracted with minimal benefit to local populations. This dynamic is at the heart of what economists call the resource curse. What makes Ibrahim Traoré's approach significant is his emphasis on ensuring that foreign investment in Burkina Faso's resources brings meaningful benefits to the country's citizens. This represents a growing trend across the continent, where leaders are increasingly standing up for greater local control and fair distribution of resource wealth. The assassination attempt against Traoré, while dramatic, reflects real historical patterns. Throughout Africa's post-colonial period, leaders who have challenged foreign economic interests have often faced severe consequences, from coups to assassination attempts. The stories of Patrice Lumumba in Congo, Thomas Sankara, also of Burkina Faso, and many others remind us that standing up for national sovereignty can come at a great personal risk. Lieutenant Zongo's heroism represents another important principle: the dedication of countless unsung heroes who work behind the scenes to protect their nations and leaders. For every story we hear about foiled plots and prevented disasters, there are many more that remain classified or unknown to the public. As we reflect on this story, let's consider the ongoing challenges facing resource-rich nations in Africa and around the world. How can countries benefit from their natural wealth without falling prey to exploitation? How can leaders balance international investment with national interests? These questions remain vital for the future of global development and equity. If this video resonated with you, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more stories about African leadership and the continent's struggle for true independence. Share your thoughts in the comments section below. We'd love to hear your perspective on this complex issue. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in our next video, where we'll explore another fascinating chapter in the story of Africa's emerging leaders.